Former President Trump is under fire from the far right for finally telling the truth. That's following comments he made recently defending the effectiveness of vaccines. Here's right-wing commentator and normally dependable Trump ally Candace Owens after Trump insisted to her that vaccines work.
You oftentimes forget how old Trump is. He comes from a generation. I've seen other people that are older have the exact same perspective. They came from a time before TV, before internet, before being able to conduct their independent research, and everything that they read in a newspaper that was pitched to them, they believed that that was a reality. I believe also that he only reads the mainstream media news. Believe it or not, I do not believe that Trump reads or partakes in any other news sources. I don't believe that Trump is on the internet.
Clean up on aisle Trump. Joining me now, CNN senior political analyst and USA Today columnist Kristen Powers, as well as CNN political commentator and political anchor at Spectrum News, Errol Louis. Errol, I'll start with you. What does this backlash against Trump from the far right say about his base of support, as well as the war against the virus and some of the shifting fault lines?
What it says about his base, John, is that some of them, I think, are recognizing that there's more at stake here than simply supporting the president and going down whatever path of bravado and BS that he wants to hand out to them. That might work as politics, but the reality is there's quite a lot at stake when you're talking about individual families, when you're talking about people who have seen what happened at their local hospital and the filling up of the ICUs. And so they're not necessarily going to sort of run down this path with him. And so he finds it now difficult to inject a note of truth into the torrent of lies that led to him being voted out of office. He's in a very difficult place, a difficult place of his own making, John.
And this was just really, Kirsten, an unbelievable exchange to watch Candace Owens and the former president talking about this and him pushing back on her, saying just the truth about vaccines and boosters and what it means for hospitalizations. But she's not the only one, of course, now trying to talk about this in the aftermath. Alex Jones is also criticizing Trump over what he said.
This is an emergency Christmas Day warning to President Trump. You are either completely ignorant about the so-called vaccine gene therapy that you helped ram through with Operation Warp Speed, or you're one of the most evil men who has ever lived to push this toxic poison on the public and to attack your constituents when they simply try to save their lives and the lives of others.
Now, we should repeat, Trump was just quite literally telling the truth about vaccines when he was pushing back on Candace Owens. Are you surprised, though, to see what she's saying in the aftermath of this and what Alex Jones is saying about this?
Not really, because you really can't put the genie back in the bottle. So what Trump unleashed can't just suddenly be undone. And you have people who have been out there parroting this line, telling all of their followers that this is the case, and they're not going to just turn around on a dime and say, oops, we were wrong because Donald Trump says this, because how stupid would they look, right? That doesn't, and I guess, when you listen to Candace Owens, she lives in a world where you're supposed to get medical information on obscure websites on the internet. That's a very different worldview that, even Donald Trump doesn't ascribe to. And so, he's basically just saying what is true, what the doctors are saying. And she's saying, well, he doesn't really know that because he's old and he doesn't spend his time basically going down rabbit holes on the internet to get medical information. It's just such an alternate universe. And I don't think it can be undone. I think that's one of the most dangerous things about the Trump era is that even if he wanted to try to pull it back, I don't think he can.
I think that's exactly right. It's also showing that, another old ancient wisdom is that Gollum always turns on its creator. And that's what we're watching right now. Errol, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell was on CNN State of the Union yesterday with Dana Bash, and she shared this voicemail that was left to her recently. Have a listen.
You goddamn old senile. You're as old and ugly as Biden. You ought to get the off the planet. You foul. They ought to try you for treason. You and every one of your scumbag friends. I hope your family dies in front of you. I pray to God if you got any children, they die in your face.
That kind of bile and hate, we're playing because she says she receives these types of voicemail regularly, ever since then President Trump attacked her late husband, Congressman John Dingell, after he passed away. So is this par for the course these days? And does airing these kinds of voicemails maybe help break the fever?
Well, I don't know about that last part, John, unfortunately. I think this is a case of the radicalization of American politics, the poisoning of American politics. This is the same state, let's remember, where there was a plot that was broken up, and one man pleaded guilty as in now serving in prison, this insane plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer. There was a backup plan to hold a week-long trial and execute legislators of the Michigan legislature. I mean, there is a streak of radicalism out there that is very dangerous. You just showed us a sample of it. People should take it very, very seriously. FBI, Homeland Security, they've been warning about this for 2 decades now, that this is a real problem. This isn't made up. This is something that we're going to have to confront as a nation. And when lawmakers are being threatened in the way that you just displayed, we should all be alarmed.
Kirsten, what do you think?
Oh, well, I was like, wow, this is really, I mean, I don't get the voicemails, I get the emails. So I was like, wow, these are my people. It's like, I mean, the thing is that anybody who is in the public eye in the Trump era can tell you, and especially having been in the, on TV pre-Trump era, that something really happened after he came into office, where these kinds of, emails and voice messages have become pretty commonplace for a lot of people. I think particularly for women who are on TV and anytime or in the public eye if you're a member of Congress, because Debbie Dingell, you have to remember, is not a particularly controversial person, right? So she's a moderate Democrat from a Midwestern state, and Trump attacked her husband, and so this is now what who also was a pretty uncontroversial person, and because Trump attacks him, this is what happens. It is 100% about Donald Trump, and something is qualitatively different. And I think anybody can tell you that. The kinds of things that I receive now on a regular, almost daily basis maybe happened once a year before, right? So again, what I was saying earlier is that Trump has unleashed something in this country that just can't be put back in the bottle. And as Errol is saying, I mean, this is something that has been identified, this kind of like hatred and vitriol, as a serious problem. Fortunately, most people don't act on the things that they say. But what happens when they do, like in the case of the governor of Michigan?